No?
All right, what happened?
Can we call them and ask get the
Kind of
audio
went
back?
offline. I can try to project. but
Okay, there we go.
Okay, there you go.
So,
The board's good.
Yeah.
So
okay.
tell me how did you come to this film?
So I'm one of the producers. Unfortunately, directors, co-directors Kelly Anderson and Jay Sternberg couldn't be here today, but they have been working together for many years. Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. Yeah, I'm all about accessibility, so I want everybody to hear. So thank you for that. Director Kelly Anderson has lived in Sunset Park for over a decade, raised her family there, and Jay Sternberg works there. That's where his media co-op is based. And so they both started filming this project about 10 years ago. And they knew each other, and they realized they were both filming the project sort of separately. They were both interested in different aspects of it. But they, one time when Industry City was getting started, they organized this like filmmaker social. And sometimes artists are the first signs of gentrification in many ways. Whether we sort of are aware of it or not, sometimes art is kind of used as a little avenue for that. And so they went to this party, and they both noticed some of those, telling signs of what was about to happen. And so they just went out for coffee and said, I think you're trying to film the same thing I'm trying to film. Let's work together. And in 2021, they reached out. I know them from also an independent filmmaking co-op called New Day Films. And they reached out because I grew up in Mexico City, and when I learned about their film, I live in California, I live in a little bit, like an hour south of San Francisco. And we're having the same conversations in the Bay Area. We're clearly having the same conversations here. Mexico City is going through the same situations, and I was really interested in their film, and they needed a producer to, just work with them and figure out the story and finding partnerships that resonated, not just in Brooklyn, but really everywhere. So I had the privilege for the project for that.
I mean, one of the amazing things about documentary filmmaking is the time that you invest in filming. So the shooting ratio for this film, tell me about that. I mean, it had to be insane. So normally a shooting ratio is like for every hour that you shoot, maybe 1 minute makes it into the final cut.
Just from the footage that we got as a team, just exclusively for this project, it was probably 110 hours. And that is without counting all the archival that we had to go through to sort of convey the history of the waterfront, but also the YouTube videos from community members and just personal stuff that our participants had. So that was a lot.
It's a lot. I mean, well done. I mean, it was really well done. I mean, in story structure, for those of you who care or know, but the tension that you built in the edit, I mean, I kept getting closer to the edge of my seat. And I'm like, what's gonna happen? And yeah, I mean, talk to me about that. Like, I mean, I can't believe the result. I thought, oh, they're dead in the water.
Well, thank you for appreciating that. I think I have a lot of respect for documentary editors. In the past, I've tried that, and honestly, my films would be serious because I think like everything is important, and it's really hard to let go of those things. And the many people that also participated in the film that had really fascinating storylines, and then maybe we get to see a little bit of them, but crafting different scenes to see what was working and how each of the participants and the experiences was adding something to the larger system that we were trying to illuminate through the films and through the lives of them. But mad props to Jay Sternberg, who was also one of the directors. So we had a really amazing team in which everybody sort of had different jobs at the same time. And so Jay was not only the co-director, was also the editor. And I think one of the challenges that he actually loved and he continuously shares with audiences is that it's really hard to make these things exciting, right? City council meetings and neighbors bickering each other, and these processes that are long and complicated, and it's not by accident, right? It's like a system that makes it it's really hard to be there in those spaces and staying focused. And so we're like trying to honor, and especially Jay in his editing with the story, we're trying to honor that kind of commitment, those not exciting hours and not very sexy thing to be doing, right? But showing up and doing that work and really honoring that suspense and the stress and the tension that just transpires in those things, because these are our lives, it's our community.
I mean, you nailed it. I mean, it was very well done. Talk to me about, so now that the film is done and you're presenting it, I mean, you're right, you said, San Francisco, I mean, obviously Brooklyn, I mean, New York City, everywhere, even in Omaha, Nebraska right now, we're facing the same thing. So talk to me about gentrification and good, bad, I mean, the fight, I mean, all of the things. So ultimately, what do you want the audience members to walk away with after watching this film?
I think one of the participants in the film says that very articulate when he says that his wife is telling him, like, aren't you nervous? Aren't you stressed out? And he's like, I'm kind of excited because this is democracy in action. It's messy and it's very complicated. And I think that's one of the takeaways that our team hopes that this film gives us. It's not necessarily like this is right, this is wrong, because you're right, it is very complicated. But at the end of the day, it's part of that mess. Like, do not be afraid, especially in these times, to get there and get into that mess and that complication, and support, at least do what we can to support those who are doing that work. Because that is a privilege that we have, right, of having these spaces where we can still do that, and protecting those spaces for democracy really happens starts with our neighborhoods.
I mean, one of the greatest challenges of this type of environment, that where it plays out, I mean, really all over the world, it's identity, right? So in these neighborhoods, like New York City specifically, by the way, there's a great book, and I don't know if you've read it, called Vanishing New York, and it goes through, it used to be a blog, but then the blogger wrote a book about it, and it goes through kind of all the neighborhoods in Manhattan, and then it kind of spills out into Queens and Brooklyn. But it talks about what people came to visit these places and to experience have now become, and I love at the end, and I was like, yes, at the end. So when Industry City started showing like, oh yeah, we made it, we're kind of like doing our thing. And it's these big box retailers, it's Starbucks and Porsche and all those images. And it's like, but the identity, and that's what these people are fighting for, is to maintain who they are, what they are, and what these places are. How important is that in this fight?
Thank you for saying that, because I think that's part of the messiness of the film. It's not necessarily to say, we have to understand, yes, growth is inevitable and cities change, right? And for every community represented there was another community before that, and so on, right? So it could get easily a slippery slope of like, not accepting new people. Or it could be sometimes at odds with building new housing, for example, because people don't want the neighborhood to change. But ultimately, I think that it's always very important that you notice that the titles of the film constantly changed, right? Like we had the original name of the land, right, and then it changed to when it was a colony, and then it changed into New York.
Yeah.
And the same way, the titles of people continue to change, right? So it's like we really want to make sure that we understand there's change, but there's the change has to happen with that acknowledgement and that agency of those who inhabit the space.
Interesting how Andrew Kimball was like, you know what, project scrapped. Oh, let me step to the mic, and now I am the new director of economic development. Like, funny how that works, huh? Like, yeah, politics.
Well, and also fast forward.
Yeah, right.
Fast forward with Eric Adams and
Yeah, and to today. So where's Industry City today? Are they the same? Did they fold and now it's?
No, I mean, every weekend the place is packed. Right? I mean, they're still doing their thing. Like, sure at the end, they still have like the office spaces. There was definitely the community really took a hit in some ways, because a lot of offices, the workers moved, especially like tech offices or higher end industry. So that was that, but it could have been a lot worse if they had built the hotel space and all of these other things. Not to mention that the city now owns that space, that additional space that they wanted to rezone. So now it's more transparent, and it's more difficult for the city to just decide to just sell it to a random person. Like, there's more protections in place. And so this is where it is really important, right? Like the small print of these processes, right? It's like, oh, the city has it, so wait, this is what the city has to go through first. And I can participate, I can get involved in that decision. We have agency, and that's something that does not happen with private ownership.
I mean, I think one of the most important parts of this too is seeing the ability of these community partners to express for their own organization, but then to come together, to work together, and to fight and win. And then the result was what they were fighting for is jobs, right? And these green jobs and the climate change jobs. And they did it. And then all of a sudden you had the energy secretary and other, House of Representatives from other states coming like, well, how did you do this, everyone? I mean, it's phenomenal, right? They fought and won and did it. And it's great.
Yeah, we hope that it also brings hope. I know a lot of us, are feeling jaded and a little skeptical of the powers that be, and while this is not like, oh, everybody won at the end, right? And the street is still there. There's all these complications, but there are ways in which we can definitely organize, and that was kind of our hope, and also that to kind of change that. Sometimes it's a popular mindset, and that's including myself. A few years ago, I used to associate like industrial jobs and that were at odds with the environment, when in reality we can really transition into clean energy, and that can be the key to keeping the industrial jobs, to keeping walk to work communities thriving.
Any last words that you want to share, or do you want to open it up to questions if anyone has questions?
I would love to hear from you all.
Thoughts, feelings? Yeah, belt it out, shout it out.
Yeah, I'll talk loud.
Okay.
So watching the film, it almost felt like being a fly on the wall, and like there was a message coming through, and it felt very much like an observer. Was that intentional in the creation of it? And can you share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course, that's a good question. I think a little bit is style. I think the three of us we like observational films. We like that sort of patient aesthetic, but also we feel like it kind of mirrors a little bit of the processes of being there. Sometimes you're just sitting there absorbing it, right? Sometimes there's no time for all of that, and also, we really wanted to just reflect that patience that people that participate in the process feel, that expectation. So I think also stylistically we wanted to convey that feeling, have people be like, is this it? Are they gonna decide? Wait, was that? What is the process? Like, it's something that you just have to like rewatch and just sort of look again at the order of things. Because that's a kind of the feeling. But yeah, that's really observational.
Other questions? Yes.
Praise for your work. Very important documentary, especially in this day when democracy is threatened like it's never been in my lifetime. And I feel like it all is interrelated. Of course, the New York areas where immigration that were the backbone of our country developed. And that's threatened. Our economics are threatened by all the billionaires that are running our government. And this is the first thing I've seen since all this stuff started that looks like they get it.
Yeah.
And they are actually making it out a film about it, and I hope it grows, and it grows immensely. And I thank you for that.
This means the world. Thank you so much. This means so much. Thank you. That was the hope, even though we were not where we're at when we finished the film. We could not have expected that it was going to be like this. But at the same time, yes, of course, all of the people that are doing this work, they don't, they have been doing this for years. Doesn't matter who's on top, they will be continuing to fight for these things. And I think at some point the film sort of made a point, someone in the film mentioned that, it is, yes, there's a lot of people that are benefit locally, like from businesses, and that's wonderful, but at the end of the day, I think it was the woman that was like, with the short hair that's like always applying lipstick on with glasses. She's like, it's like Whistle and Dixie, like this is like the big guys, and ultimately they're to them, we're all the same. And also on that vein, the film is going to be on public television. We're very lucky to, so it's kind of aligns with the values of the film. We want this film to be out there, and it's hopefully we're going to have public television is going to help us do a study guide. We're working on that right now, and I hope that it's available in public libraries for like streaming for free with library cards. That's another reason to just show up and protect our libraries. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we have to move on, so I'd like to have everyone give Brenda a round of applause for a wonderful film. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's been wonderful. It's a great film.
Thank you, and I'll be out in the lobby if anybody wants to
Yes,
chat.
and then of course, don't forget to take your passes, interior corners, and hand those in on the way out. And of course, there's other films being played. This is day 2 of the festival. It goes on till Sunday, so please bring your friends. Come back, see more films, have more action. Brenda, thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah.